Fingers crossed. So, welcome in everybody. It's been nice to see you all, of course. And I'm used to just seeing your username, so it's nice to. We've got quite a lot of people on the Zoom today, which is really, really good. We've done a quick. We did just before a press record. We did a quick kind of hello. But today, Clive has given us a bit of a presentation, so I'm not going to spend too much time with the hellos. We'll come back to that a little bit later on after it. But Clive is doing a presentation on Bob Dylan. Is that right, Clive, today? You're still on mute.
Karen keeps muting us because she thinks there's noise in this sealed room. But
No,
Yeah, so I can talk to him about you.
Oh, okay.
Right, Jenny, you've disabled screen sharing, so you need to go into your settings and enable us.
Let's do that then. Okay, yeah, all participants. Okay, I've done that now. Fingers crossed that works.
Okay.
just tell us when you're ready.
So you just tell us when you're ready for us to
Yeah,
share.
I'm good to go. I think the quicker we start, yeah, let's do it.
Here we go.
Yes, okay, so yeah, this is my talk on Bob Dylan, and it's about the first time I encountered Bob Dylan and some ideas that I've had over the years about him and other artists. So crack on. My musical background: Cat Stevens was the first singer-songwriter I ever listened to from about age 12, as my elder sister was into him, and I did not fancy either Donny or David. Okay, so on a day trip from school when I was 16 to see a Shakespeare play, a friend smuggled a ghetto blaster onto the school bus.
Clive, did everybody's screen go black? Oh, there it is. Okay, maybe it took a while to come across. Okay, sorry about that.
Okay, thank you. And from the back of the coach, I had heard something, the like of which I had never heard before or since, and it changed my life forever.
Apart from Jenny.
I was knocked out, but not quite loaded. I should add that some of my slide titles are actually plays on song titles, so you may not recognise them all. I still listen to this song, Sarah, on a regular basis some 46 years later, and it still brings tears to my eyes every time I do. So let's take a listen. Jenny.
Not me now, yeah.
That's you.
Can you all hear that?
Nope.
Can't hear anything, but I'm very familiar with the song.
Me too. Good on you.
Right, I might have to stop the screen share for a second to play
yeah,
that.
Just play about a minute of it so we don't go on for too long.
No problem. Well, I'm just gonna try and figure out how to stop the screen share.
If not, I'll put it on Spotify and play it from here.
Yeah, right, okay. You ready?
Ready as well.
You hear that now?
No.
No. Oh, great. We tested this before and it worked.
Mm.
That's me. Do you want to hear me playing it?
Yeah, go on.
Has anyone got a ghetto blaster?
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
No.
Very quiet.
Very quiet.
Yeah, very quiet.
In fact, do you want me to play it from speakers? That might work a bit better. Let me try that first.
Try that or we'll move on.
I'm getting feedback on the mic. I'll tell you
Is that any good?
Can you hear that? I've put it on. Oh.
That's better.
the one thing I'll never regret. I can still hear the sounds of those Methodist bells.
I faded down.
Fine.
And it just got through. Staying up for days in the Chelsea Hotel. Right.
Is that
Okay.
enough?
Yeah, that's enough. It's just a taste, really. So we're about to move on. When Karen's got the next slide.
Okay,
Why isn't it clicking?
it will.
No.
Might have to press play at the top there, Karen.
Yeah.
A little bit up to the left.
I'm not touching because you
Right,
have
well,
to
don't
do it.
touch it.
That's it, yeah.
Okay. Nope.
Won't change slide. So
When I saw the album cover, I thought you were going to talk about Hurricane. at
Oh,
first.
there we go. Oh, no.
okay, so let's carry on. I went to a boarding school from age 13 to 18, a couple of 100 miles from home. But the following Tuesday, when we were allowed into the local town, I bought Desire. Never having been to a concert, I just had to see Dylan. And soon after my epiphany, Dylan announced his 1978 World Tour, taking in London's Earl's Court. But I was stuck at school. Luck number one. So, however, my late dad had a shop, and his landlord was Wilson Peck, a musical instrument store, who in those days was where you went to buy in Sheffield to buy concert tickets. Later on, I saw pictures of people queuing for days for tickets, and I still feel guilty about it, as Dad had got me 8 tickets. Instead of being milk monitor, who remembers free school milk, I had the unusual job of being the school's unofficial day trip organizer, to the extent that I had my own desk in the school office. This all started when I used to arrange trips to Wembley to watch football matches. So I quickly put my skills into good use, hired a minibus, got a teacher to take us, and off we went, with Street Legal playing from a portable cassette player. This was an amazing way for a 16-year-old newbie to get into Dylan Live, with the greatest hits set, and I still love these concerts, and I know in recent years a lot of fans have come to really like this tour. When Dylan announced Blackbush, I knew I had to be there, even though I had no idea where Camberley or even Surrey were. I needed tickets and someone to go with, so to hell with exams, it was time to get back to my office desk. Wilson Peck were not selling tickets, so I applied by post to Harvey Goldsmith and waited with bated breath for the tickets to arrive, and eventually they did. My school friend DB said he would love to go to the concert and that I should come and stay with him in London so we could plan it and go to the gig from there. It's all a bit of a mystery to me now, but off we went on a Friday morning, suitably packed up with loads of food from DB's mum. DB and I thought we knew better, and as novices at music festivals, we did not take a tent, so we walked around all night. Luckily, there was no hard rain. We kept approaching the gates, but the bouncers kept sending us packing. Then a bit of luck. We got to the gates again, and they suddenly opened, and in we ran. Yes, my claim to fame is that I was the first of 250,000 into the biggest ever gig in the UK. It was only when Graham Parker ascended the stage that DB shouted, "This is what I'm here for." No, he was not there for Dylan or even Clapton, but Graham Parker and the Rumour.
Great band.
By the time Clapton left the stage, I was ready for Dylan, and 34 wonderful songs later, it was all over, and we began the long journey Homeward Bound. I consider myself very lucky that 46 years ago I heard Sarah. By coincidence, I have seen Dylan live around 40 plus times, but lost count after about 10, and I now wonder whether it could have been 46 times for 46 years. Dylan has been a big part of my life ever since, a life of music that has provided great joy to me and sustained me on many occasions. So the second half of my talk is more about how I compare Dylan as one artist to artists of other genres, in particular painters, which is sort of my other hobby. The point I'm trying to make here is that is not that I can truly compare Dylan to certain painters, but that all of these great artists lived or are living in a different universe to most of us. They invented and defined their art and became cultural icons whose influence on life has been profound, and that they were perhaps born with a destiny to do this. We all prefer different art forms to a greater or lesser extent, and I know how all of us love music. To be able to love any form of art and embrace them as a hobby is something I'm glad I can do, and I hope you do as well. So I start with Bob Dylan, the serial performer and actor. Throughout his career, Dylan has been a prolific performer, and with exception of one period, he has toured extensively and appeared in concert over 4,000 times, sometimes at a rate of over 120 shows a year. He's even performed several of his songs almost 3,000 times. The most interesting thing about Dylan Live is the way he continually reinvents his recorded songs, altering the lyrics and music, but most noticeably, the way he performs them. A lot of people muse about how Dylan is currently behaving on stage, standing and sitting, hand on hip, and flicking his fingers out as a gesture when taking the applause at the end of his shows. Is this one of his greatest acts or performances? Just when you thought you might be starting to understand Dylan, at the age of 80-odd, he brings out a new and unique album, one of his greatest yet, and totally reinvents his live shows. So now I'll have a quick look at some painters that I admire, and I excluded the names of the paintings so you can focus on them. But if you want to know any titles, I'm happy to give you them. Perhaps it is no more than a coincidence that Dylan, Turner, Monet and Hockney's personal and artistic lives had some parallels. But I find this comparison an interesting way of viewing their respective careers. Perhaps I'm deceived by my love for all of these artists, so you might need a furtive imagination to buy into this. Turner was, for me, the father of modern art, the most revolutionary painter of all time, and perhaps the greatest artist that ever lived. Monet is most famous for his series paintings and his increasingly abstract, impressionist or even expressionist painting style. If Turner is the greatest artist ever, then Hockney is perhaps the greatest living artist today. Let's take a quick look at each of these paintings. Painters, through the lives of their paintings. Claude Monet. I'm starting with Monet, who lived between the lives of Turner and Hockney, for reasons I hope will become clear when I compare the artists backwards and then forwards in time. Monet's earliest known painting of Le Havre, a rather simple landscape. Dylan's first album, 140 years later, as one of the most simple album covers of his career. Take a look at how Monet's style started and ended from very simple to ultra abstract. But as with Dylan, Monet soon developed his own style, and Monet started to paint in series, exploring the same themes over and over again, reinventing, reworking, and perfecting them. Rouen Cathedral, the train station at Gare Saint-Lazare, the Palace of Westminster in London, and Charing Cross and Waterloo Bridges, also in London. I appreciate that those are quite small, but they're all different paintings, different colours, etc. Monet started to combine his series painting with his ever-developing abstract style. For example, the Japanese bridge in his water lily pond. His works became more and more abstract until they all but disappeared into the canvas. Let's take a look. Finally, in this section, let us compare a late Monet and Dylan. Here I'm not comparing the images, but I'm contrasting the radically modern painting with an equally radically modern musical style. His latest album, Rough and Rowdy Ways, 120 years later. Turner died at age 74, was the one born earliest of the three. And I compare that painting we saw of the Monet's Japanese bridge with Turner's burning of the London Parliament some 86 years earlier. Just look how abstract Turner's painting already was, long before Monet was even born. Well, let's go quickly through Turner's career, and as with Monet, he started with a very simple style, a high street in Oxford, and moved on to sort of mythical themes before we encounter his more abstract style, first here in a watercolour, and then his more famous or typical large-scale paintings. That's the Fighting Temeraire, by the way, one of the most famous paintings in the National Gallery, and perhaps his most famous painting of all, Rain, Steam and Speed, the Great Western Railway. So finally with David Hockney, who is 86. I believe that Dylan is 83 or 4 at the moment. I'm not too sure. Two of Hockney's best known early works, Pool with Two Figures and The Splash. And one more, Mr. and Mrs. Clark with Percy the Cat. The first evidence of Hockney's series paintings was in 2016 with his 82 portraits and one still life. And you can see about a dozen or more of them there. His series painting continued in 2011 with his first series on the arrival of spring in Waldsgate, East Yorkshire. And then about 9 years later, living in Normandy in France, another series on the arrival of spring. And I think there were about 120 in that series, and almost as many in the first. Hockney even turned, Hockney even turned the more recent arrival of spring into one 290-foot long painting. But not to have been outdone, Monet had already done this 100 years earlier in 1922 with his water lilies, which is actually 32 feet longer at over 300 feet. So we've looked at Turner, Monet and Hockney, the Dylan of painters. So now we'll look at Dylan, the Turner, Monet, Hockney of musicians. All of these men had an obsession with perfecting, reinventing and reinterpreting their work, as well as continually looking for something new, and both reached their own pinnacle in their 70s and 80s. They all had long and successful careers, and perhaps I'm influenced to compare them by the fact that they were all blessed to work into their old age. But as I will say, my final musing about Dylan, I wonder if destiny had called them from birth. Before I do so, however, it seems I just have to mention Dylan the painter. I love his art, but I really can't comment on how good he is, but he's certainly no amateur. Have you noticed something strangely familiar? I trust you can now see what I mean. And obviously I'm referring to the fact
Series.
that he was painting in series and in a rather abstract style as well. Okay, so from painting by numbers to painting to music by painting. Mr. Tambourine Man, and we'll listen to that in just a few moments. What do you have in your mind's eye? Whilst I may find Dylan's lyrics beguiling, most have been interpreted, but Mr. Tambourine Man has probably evaded even the greatest of literary minds, and perhaps Dylan too. If we could listen to a minute of Mr. Tambourine Man, although it is a well-known song, shall we stop the share here?
I've got it. I've got it. How's that?
No.
The tambourine man
Yes.
song for me. I'm not sleepy, and there's no place I'm going to. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. In the jingle jangle morning, I'll come following you. Oh, I know the evening's empire has returned into sand, vanished from my hand, left me blindly here to stand, but still not sleeping. I know it amazes me, I am branded on my feet. I have no one to meet, and the ancient empty streets too dead for dreaming.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Time.
Okay, I suggest you stop there. We all know the song. We could hear it quite well. And it gives the message we want. So let's move on. Almost finished. However, despite my confusion, I can always conjure a picture in my mind of all Dylan's songs, even Wigwam and Tweedledee and Tweedledum. I use these pictures to provide myself with an interpretation of the songs, in the same way we can try to interpret paintings we look at. Perhaps drawing parallels, comparisons, and pictures is just my way of immersing myself into music and appreciating these songs. I could have chosen many other painters instead of Turner, Monet, Hockney. Rembrandt focused on portraits of himself and was clearly introspective. Picasso deconstructed and reinvented the human form. In a way, I have suggested Dylan does with his songs. But I chose Turner, Monet and Hockney, spanning 248 years from 1775 to 2023. Not to be outdone, of course, Dylan is also painted in the style of a modern-day Rembrandt and Picasso. I could have even chosen so many other artistic and cultural genres to compare, such as architects, photographers, sculptors, and artists. On this page, we've got the architect Richard Rogers and the Pompidou Centre in Paris. Actors like Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs. I could have even chosen chefs because, let's be honest, some of their plates look more like works of art than food to eat. The point I wanted to get across here is that all of these artistic and cultural disciplines form part of the world of creativity, and it is this creativity that is what I am trying to express. Dylan from the Rolling Thunder tour in 1976. I couldn't resist this one after showing Bowie with his makeup on. Here, Dylan, the actor, the performer, the designer. My choice was also dictated by what interests me and what I hope I know a little about. Here we have the photographer, the French photographer, Cartier-Bresson. That Bob Dylan is one of the greatest cultural icons that has ever lived is for me not in doubt, but I also love and admire so many others. A quote from Leonard Cohen, Dylan's achievement is so monumental. He was the Picasso, I'm the Matisse. I love Matisse, but I'm in awe of Picasso. There we have a picture left to right of Leonard Cohen, Picasso, and Bob Dylan. But just in case anyone's not noticed, that's actually Kate Blanchett appearing in a film as Bob Dylan. Finally, I cannot explain this, and I hope you do not think it rather absurd, but I'm convinced that when Dylan was a teenager in Hibbing, he planned his whole life out in front of him. That is why I believe he really can't explain what he does. Example, his strange interviews wrongly interpreted as him being deliberately misleading. Dylan is one of those unique artists beyond our capacity to ever truly understand what he has brought to the world. It is up to you to decide whether he, and of course all these other artists, are messengers, and if so, from whom? That's it. Thank you.
Well done, Clive.
Thank you.
I think everyone's clapping, but most people are muted, so
Yes, yes.
silent clap.
Silent clap.
That was
Yeah.
brilliant. So that presentation, Clive, I'm right in thinking that you presented that to a room full of Dylan.
I did a few weeks ago. The first time I did it, we're a group of Dylan fanatics, but not just fanatic fans, but some of the most knowledgeable Dylan fans in the world whose group I'm in, and usually just sit and listen to in awe of their knowledge and find it very interesting. Yeah.
So there was no pressure involved then.
There was no pressure. They took it very politely, thanked me for it, said it was good, and somebody mentioned the Leonard Cohen quote about Picasso, so I added that.
That was brilliant. That was really, really interesting, Clive.
I hope it was enjoyable. Thank you.
It was interesting to hear a little bit about, your early life as well, and how you've almost seen him 49 times, or you're not quite
40
sure.
odd, 40 odd, yeah.
Which is phenomenal, isn't it? Let's be honest, because how many people can say that they've seen Bob Dylan? Anybody else in here seen Bob Dylan?
About 5 times. That's all.
Only seen him 6.
You've only seen him six times.
Stuck on 6, yeah.
That's still a lot, isn't it? Let's who's this?
I've seen him every time he came on an Alaskan tour.
Good.
Wow.
But
So
that's none.
Twice.
You've just wounded me then. Well.
We need to work out how many times we've seen Jenny, because I bet you
It's more.
Competition here, Jenny.
Not really, but hi, Mum.
Hi, Mum.
Hi, Dan.
Yeah,
I think,
okay.
I think it's
Right.
nice though that if anyone, hopefully wants to say what their musical background is or anything, because we talk about music or we talk about this and that, but it perhaps be nice to get to know a little bit about each other as well. That was one of my purposes. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, honestly, I really enjoyed that, Clive. Really, really did. Mum, in case you're wondering what we're talking about, Clive has just given us a presentation about Bob Dylan, and not necessarily a overly factual one, but more about kind of how he compares him to different artists. And yeah, it was really interesting. Really enjoyed that. If anyone else has anything like that they want to do on these Zooms, these Zooms aren't about me. These are about you guys. So if there's anything you want to share, then yeah, these perfect platform to do it. So that was really good, Clive. Thank you very much for that. I'm glad that I'm sorry about the audio. Don't know why I couldn't get we tested it prior and it was fine, but sod's law, isn't it? It never works on the night.
I think it's hard to get music from playing over Zoom because you have to talk quite clearly and closely to the microphone for it to be clear, I think. Yeah, I think that's the problem.
Yeah. So thanks, Ian, for stepping in there and helping.
Thank you.
Good lad, Ian. Good lad.
No problem. I know Dylan's not your thing, Jenny.
Concert, Ian.
Yeah, defo. Yeah, I think he's.
Yeah.
Oh, has he been? He's just been, hasn't he?
I think we are at Brindley anyway.
We are at Brindley.
Yeah.
I'm there as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully. Hopefully, and not sitting next to us.
Yes.
Although you're more than welcome.
We'll make
Maybe
do,
you-
Clive. Don't worry.
Maybe you could go on the stage, Clive, do that bit for me. Oh, brilliant stuff, brilliant. So yeah, in terms of what's been going on with me, I think a lot of you guys know the cat is kind of out the bag. I kind of kept a lot of it secret. Probably not as secret as I wanted to originally, but obviously, we've got the album coming up and we've got the tour, and the new song that came out, which I just kind of shared with you guys and have never played it before. So that was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And it still is.
Why did you make that decision?
I just wanted to. I meant to do it with I'm Just Lost. That was always the plan with that one. And yeah, I ended up just playing it on the streams one time because I was too excited. But this track's a bit different because it's not a track that I would say is necessarily like a solo performing track. I know I've had some comments, people wanting acoustic versions and things like that, and I did the acoustic version last night on the stream, which actually was better than I thought it was going to be. So yeah, I think with that. What, Mum?
I'm just saying nothing. I was talking to Jane. Sorry.
Oh, hi, Jane.
Hi, Jane.
Jenny, as fans that regularly go on your stream, like all of us here, and on the Patreon, I'm not saying it's something that we deserve. I think we appreciate really hearing songs in advance, how they develop from their beginnings to a produced version. So for me, I think it's important for me, and I really, really appreciate it and enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm definitely in that camp. I do prefer doing it like that. And I have actually got the demo version of it, which I will be posting on Patreon this week. So that hopefully you'll look forward to that. I don't know, but this is a song that, like I say, it wasn't ever okay. This is a song that I can perform solo. It was always a bit of a project for me and Dave to work on. So it was the perfect song really to kind of just go, here you go, guys. This is a different type of song and and also I think it was just kind of a good exercise for me because it's so easy to just do the songs that what everyone loves, so. And it's good to have that experience of writing a song, not really knowing how it's going to go down, and then having that feedback, that whether people like it or whether they don't. Me going into it not knowing that is, I think, something that I needed to do at some point. And who knows, maybe there'll be more of that in the future. I don't know. But yeah, I'm definitely with you on that, Clive. I do like performing the songs and getting people to love the song before I put it out. I think it sells better in that way, but at the same time, it's nice every now and then I see it as like a little bit of a treat every now and then just to kind of go, here's a new song. And it's something like I say, I plan to do with I'm Just Lost, and I couldn't hold it in because it was always a track that I knew that I could play solo as well. And I just couldn't make it because my production process is quite a long process. It's not something that happens in a week. I don't tend to just go in the studio with Dave and we have a track done after two or three sessions. It's you'll see on the behind the scenes it's a big long process, especially when you're in the middle of an album as well. So yeah, that was the thought process behind that chain. Really, it was a bit of I just wanted to do something a little bit different, and I'm glad I've done it.
I really enjoyed the fact that you did it. So
yeah,
Me too. Yeah, it was a nice surprise.
It was great.
Yeah. And like I say, maybe I'll do that again in the future. Like I did enjoy it. I love performing the tracks and getting people used to the songs and things like that. But I guess it's always good to have the two sides of the coin, and have people not know and just surprise people every now and then, because that's what the big artists do. That's what quite often, there's not many artists I think out there that would put out an album or put out every single that people have heard millions of times before. I think that's unique to people who are live streamers or consistent giggers. So yeah, I don't like, if you think of, I don't know, maybe I could be wrong, but the top acts, the people who are in the charts, quite often they'll put a new single out and you'll only hear snippets of it a couple of weeks before. So it's a good exercise for me to get used to that if that ever happens. But I will say it was absolutely terrifying. And in some ways a lot less enjoyable because I can't share the snippets on social media, and I wanted to talk about it every single time the camera was in front of my face, but I couldn't. Probably, I don't know if I hinted it. I don't know if any of you guys had any ideas or not, but yeah. Anyway, it's out. It's there for you guys to listen to. There will be more music coming. I don't know whether it'll be this year now or not. I've still yet to make that decision. But there's definitely going to be some more music coming for you soon. For sure.
What's
Obviously,
happened to Fallen Angels? I thought that was coming out this year. Hence the choir and all that sort of stuff.
yeah. So the plan, John, is to get it out this year. But one thing that I've learned over the process of the last few years of putting music out, it's not all down to me. The track itself is pretty much good to go, but you got to wait for things like artwork and distributors and just the final, like quite often the final part of the production takes the longest, the mastering and the mix, getting that bit right. The way I kind of describe it is it's like putting a painting out. At first, you're kind of flicking brushes at it with different colors and putting as much out as you can and getting your ideas on the page. If you were to compare me to an artist there, Clive.
I know.
And then after that, it's like, I guess, forming the image and making it sound exactly how you want. And it's that fine tuning that sometimes takes a while. I will say I'm pretty close. I've had the latest demo back this week, and and I'm already very excited to put it out. I've got quite a lot of choir vocals now, thanks to John Bailey and thanks to a few other people who've sent in some audio. I've not had I'd sent out an awful lot of emails. I've not had an awful lot of audio back, but I've got enough as it is to I could put it out, like it is now. But the more the better. So if anyone is still to send me audio, you have still got to the 4th of October. I might be delaying it again. So if that is the case, I will let you guys know. I'd love to have it out, probably November. I don't think December's a great month to get music out because it's Christmas and people are distracted. And I don't know, what do you guys think? I wouldn't have any idea really, but in my guess would be that
the greatest hits market, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not really the time.
Christmas.
Yeah, everyone's very distracted. I write December off as like my break. So well, it's not really a break, but I don't, I'll be live streaming. I'll probably be doing a lot of Christmassy type stuff. Hopefully this time.
We're not having the best of Jenny's Christmas songs.
Yeah.
I did write a Christmas song once, and it was really good. And I can't remember how it goes, and I don't think I've got any recordings of it.
Thank goodness.
I know it was really good, Karen. What was that, Ian?
Nothing.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Well,
So
it used to be said that people would try to get things out, in time for people to buy them as Christmas gifts, but that was when there was more physical, like a CD or an album or something like
exactly.
that. Yeah, I don't know how now that everybody's just downloading stuff on their phones, it's kind of hard for me to see how you give that as a gift.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's a different market, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, like the last I've had a couple of CDs come out in November. I think it was Dear Daughter and Something Beautiful. I think both came out in November. Excuse me. But yeah, I wouldn't say that it's a benefit to necessarily get things out in November. I think it's good for me to just like not rush it. But that being said, I think all I'm waiting on now is those final bits of audio to mix it and obviously master it, which comes kind of hand in hand. And then also just to get the artwork back, which we've not made a start on yet. But lyric video as well.
I like the fact that you're tying in all the artwork. It looks very similar artwork, but different, if you get meaning.
Yeah. So
I like the fact that you're working with the artist as it goes along. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the plan right from day one. And to be honest, that's been something I've always wanted to do, but I've just never found that right person. And I feel like with Emily, we've got to a point now where we're working really, really quickly together, which is good, because when we first started out, we was a little bit kind of disjointed, and that's just natural. I think when you're when you're collaborating with anybody, you want your ideas, and she's getting used to what I like, and it's just difficult at first, but now we've got this communication going, and I feel like she's really locked in, and I'm hoping that you'll notice that on the lyric video that comes out tomorrow. Like I was watching it yesterday on here, and I just love it. I just love it. And it actually, to me, not to speak too much about it, it gives the song a little bit of a different story to what I initially wrote. But basically I didn't really give her too much of an idea. I just sent her the track, and she just came up with this lyric video idea. And then I realized I hadn't really given her too much of what the story was. I just gave her the track, but she'd formed this cool story behind the track, which I actually think really works well with the track. And I'm hoping that for people who aren't as linked in with the song, maybe it'll trigger something for them. It definitely did that.
When does that premiere?
Tomorrow at 5 p.m, John. I'm literally currently uploading it as we speak. So I'll be able to put that link out hopefully today. So you guys will have the link ready to go, ready for tomorrow. But yeah, again, it's just I'm just working with other people and deadlines, and I'm waiting for things. It's not always, because with putting music out, they always say it's got to be like 6 weeks before distribution. Sorry, 6 weeks before release, you've got to upload it to the distributor. So you want to have the track finished 6 weeks before that. And even some people, like labels, will probably have it a lot longer before than that. And that's to give it enough chance for Spotify to really get a chance to listen to it, and maybe put it on some editorial playlists and things like that. So it's not just a case of upload 1 week, then the next week the track goes live. It can be, but it's not the best way to do it. So yeah, it's a lot more goes into like the timing of things, and I think it's probably obvious to people. So yeah, I think if I can get some artwork back in the next few weeks, maybe I can get the ball rolling with getting it out in November. I would love to get it out in November, but then there's the choice of, if I get a track out in November, does that mean that I've got to put another track out next year, which is possibly not
No,
going to be possible.
Come and say hello to Jen.
Hello, Isla.
Hi. How you doing, Isla? She's like, blue people.
Got on a Zoom meeting.
How you doing? Have you been to a party?
Mum went over, then she checked, then it was tomorrow.
Oh no.
Oh dear.
Oh, Jane.
Right,
Oh, Jane.
We've all done it.
We've all been there.
Right, we're going to go now, Jenny. So I just wanted to pop in and say hello.
Oh, thanks for popping in. See you soon.
All right, bye. Say
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye, Jen. Bye.
Later.
Bye.
It's better a day early than a day late.
I don't know how to get out of it. How do I go? Sorry.
Bobby said bye.
I can't get out.
James and Bobby said bye.
They're all
Oh,
saying
bye, James and Bobby.
I don't know how to get out.
Just
Leave your
shut
phone
the
off.
Leave.
Shut the
Should
app.
be a
Right.
leave,
Phone
red leave.
Bye.
See ya.
Oh, I'm not left.
Oh, thank God for that.
I've just got to tell you something quite funny.
Very.
Very funny. I actually once went to a funeral and the person hadn't died yet. Now,
He and a group of friends.
two
not
friends,
just him.
and he hadn't died. Now, in Jewish law, you bury somebody the moment they die, within hours. And I'd heard that he died, but what I'd mistaken was that he was very, very ill. But because I heard he died, I just went to the funeral, to the cemetery, and he hadn't died. And he died that day, and I had to go back the next day. Anyway, quite funny when we
that happened a lot. I bet you
looked at each other, and there was nobody at the cemetery waiting for us.
I thought you were gonna say like he was like there. Like
Well, that would have been.
He was the following day.
Hi.
oh gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I guess that's possibly quite common then, if that's the case. Because how many times you hear say
Yeah.
someone's
You
passed
do
away?
hear a rumor that somebody's died and they haven't. Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine that you're not the only one there, Clive.
Mm.
But yeah, Yeah, Jane was telling me the other week that she dropped Isla off at school for the first day, and there was a mum there who brought a child for her first day of school, and she wasn't due in till the next day. So she'd gone through the whole first day of school. Oh,
Yeah.
glad she'd
No,
gone
no.
through that twice. Oh, yeah. Not a great start. But yeah,
Jenny, I don't know if this is because you've got an album coming out, but it seems that you're a little bit more psyched up, excited, working harder, buzzed. Do you have a feeling that this album and the tour next year is? I mean, I know you want it to, but do you have a feeling that it's going to take you to whatever the next level is? You know.
I think I was speaking to Ian about this the other day, actually. I'm really, really excited for this album. All of the songs so far, like I've spoke to you guys about this millions of times before, but it's very up and down. And like literally 1 minute I can think it's all pointless. And I don't know if it's just a phase that I'm going through, but and then the next minute I can be like, I'm really enjoying this album. And sometimes it can be within a day. Like I listen to a song once because I get the demos constantly. So I'm constantly getting feedback of it, and that's good and bad in some ways. Because like I can get like a demo through and I'll listen to it and I'm like, it's not there, it's just not happening, and then I get really worried about it. And then the next minute you can send me a slightly different mix of the demo and it'll be like, wow, this is exactly how I want the track to sound. And it's very much, you don't know what it's going to be like until that final shiny mastered version of the track. So yeah, but the feedback that I've got and from what I'm listening to right now, I do think it's going to go well. But I think what my idea of going well is might be very different to what everybody has, you know, in this chat now. Everyone's probably got slightly different ideas of what success is. So I just need to cough. Don't know why I've got this cough all of a sudden. Maybe I've got COVID from the COVID clinic. I don't know.
There's a lot of COVID around, I hate to tell you.
Yeah.
A lot of it.
No, I feel fine. I just got a little tickle in my throat. But yeah, so I've got a great feeling of the album. I think it's an album that you're all gonna love. I think, but I don't know. I just honestly just don't know.
Ian and myself often go through the songs that we know are going to come on the album. We think it's going to be a fantastic album.
Yeah, I mean, I think you probably know a lot of them. I think there's some obvious ones that are going to be there. I'm still not 100% decided, if I'm honest. There's some tracks that we've definitely started that will definitely be on there. There's a couple of like mainly some of my newer ones which are like I want them to be on there, but because I'm still shaping the way that they're going to be. It could be that they're released next year, but after the album or even the year after that. I don't know. But as long as to me it's the songs themselves kind of all fit nicely, because I really want this album to have a bit of a feel to it, as opposed to it just being quite random. And at the minute I've got this kind of big small theme going on, which I try to convey with the whole thing with the moon, but also like the, you know, deep personal human emotion. Because I think that's the thing I'm trying to convey with this album is that, you know, what might seem small to one person or what might seem big to one person is the opposite to somebody else. Or, you know, it's this kind of contradiction of, you know, are we small on this planet or are we, because we are, to us, we are the most important thing, right? You know, or our friends and family are the most important thing. But when you think about the things that like global warming and these massive, huge, crazy things that we have no idea about or we're only starting to learn about, we are really quite small in that. I don't know if I don't know if you guys are getting on board with that, but that's what the album is to me, you know. Because like one of the tracks that I wasn't sure was going to be on the album was My Design, which is one of my favorite tracks. But I've decided it is going to be on the album, and mainly because I think it really kind of conveys that idea of big. You know, this is my design. This is like the way that I think life should be, type thing. So yeah, as long as the songs fit that theme and that the songs that I'm comfortable with and I feel like they're ready to go out, then they're probably on the album. But obviously there's a lot of tracks as well that are fan favorites of you guys, so that you know they're going to be right up there in the pecking order for getting on the album, and also the ones that are my favorites as well. So yeah, it's going to be I think it's going to be a mixed a real mix of songs, which is good. I think at one point, especially when I put out the first album, I was terrified. I was really, really worried that, you know, some of the songs were so different to the other songs. You know, you've got songs like Same Old Story and then This Side, or you've got Same Old Story and then Little Blue Boy, and they're just very different feeling songs. And as much as that's, you know, now looking back, I'm just thinking that's my debut album. That's just me putting the tracks out at the time that I had. I'm also kind of wanting it to be a little bit different on this album, but similar in the way that some of the songs are very different, but they connect together because of this pattern, this theme throughout the album. So hopefully it portrays. But yeah, I think also I've just decided I've realized that I have like various different styles. You know, I've got like the folkier style, the more acoustic side to me, and then I've got the rockier, I guess, more darker. I think like Lost Animals EP had a lot of those kind of rocky, dark songs on it, which there'll be a few of them on this. And then I've got like the more poppy, I wouldn't call it like kind of outright pop music, but it's a poppier vibe of my music, which is you heard a little bit with No One Loves Me Like You. So yeah, there's going to be the 3 different sides of Jenny, which is that's why I've got 3 different playlists. I've got the a million little voices, which is kind of like that poppier side, and then you've got it's How You Feel Inside, which is the bit more folky side, and then you've got Nothing Left for Me in Paradise, which brings out that little bit of rock, which I'm going with that. That is the way I'm marketing it. My persona, my genre. I don't think I've really got one, to be honest, but I'm actually
Jenny,
yeah. Go on.
you could do an Adele and call your next album 3.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think often like the decision of what the album's going to be called is usually like a line in a song that really just portrays what the album's about. But yeah, it's always an idea. I think there was a few ideas for this album that I did have, but Staring at the Moon was the one that I ultimately ended up deciding on, and I'm really happy with that decision. So yeah, it's all going good, and at the minute, Clive, I am on this really big high. I'm on this just so excited for everything, to be honest. I'm excited to I honestly kind of part of me thinks I've maybe announced it a little bit too early. That's one thing I'm thinking, but oh well, it doesn't matter. It just means we can all get excited together. I don't know if that's normal. Yeah. I know it's a long way away for you to wait. Obviously, the only reason it's a long way away is because it takes that long to create and for me to crowdfund an album. So I'd have it out next week if I could, and I'd be touring next week if I could. But obviously, these things just take a little bit of time. And as long as I've got a plan and I'm keeping people in the loop of what's happening, I feel like hopefully it should go well. But yeah, I'm absolutely buzzing at the minute with music and how it's all going. So,
Jenny,
yeah.
How important do you think sequencing is on the album these days, with
I think-
playlists and things?
I think it's very important in terms of how the audio portrays itself. Like, there's like certain songs, like for example, you wouldn't put like all of your rocky songs and then your slow songs. In my opinion, that's not something that I would do. I try and take people on a bit of a journey a little bit. Sequencing these days, obviously, it doesn't have as much of an impact as it did maybe like 20, 30 years ago, where people get like a physical CD and I know a lot of you guys buy the physicals and you'll listen to the album in the order, but not everybody does. So there's definitely not as much of that in music these days. But for me, if I've got to cater to the people who are going to be listening to the album in the way it's intended. So yeah, I think it's important. I try not to overthink it, to be honest, because I can get myself into like a loop of just like changing it. I think with Lost Animals, I changed it about 5 or 6 times before it was finished.
How do you do that? How do you do it? Do you play the end of one song and then the beginning of another?
Yeah, it takes a lot. I'll end up like playing the whole track and then play it into the next, and it takes time just to do that.
Right.
Yeah, that's it really. I've got some ideas already for this new album. But what I tend to do, Shane, is when I get the track sent back to me when it's finished, so I've got some tracks finished already, I'll put them in into the I think it's called a DDP. Yeah, the DDP, and I'll put them in, and then you just swap them about as the tracks come in, and eventually you'll land on what you think is right. But yeah, it takes time. It's not something that you kind of just know straight away. Well, that for me anyway, it definitely takes maybe a couple of weeks of thinking about and changing it up a little bit. But that comes really towards the end.
Don't limit yourself to 12 tracks. If you've got 16 killer tracks, put all 16 out. We don't mind. Promise.
I think honestly, like I've always thought about albums as a certain amount of tracks. But I think as well in this day and age, and I have noticed like through releasing, because the last couple of releases haven't been too far apart for me. They're still further apart than a lot of artists. So a lot of artists are putting songs out every 4 weeks, and they're going down that singles route of putting single every 4 weeks, which is great for the Spotify and the socials, and it keeps everything really active. But I really like to give the tracks what they deserve in terms of a bit of time to sit with people. And it's like I'm not saying that people have like forgot about Without You now, because I don't think that that's the case. But I think now that there's a new one out, people will naturally listen to that one first. And I kind of want Without You to be getting the same amount of streams, if not more streams than it was, So I think every couple of months for me is more my cycle of things. But bringing me back now to that point of, if I put out a track in November, that does mean that really I need to be putting out a track late January, early February. And it's like whether I can crowdfund, because it's more expensive to put singles out, because obviously every single you've got to put promo and PR and all of that type of stuff behind it. So I'm a little bit limited to what I can do. So I've just have to be a little bit careful with what I'm doing in that sense. But yeah, if I had 16 and it was warranted to the point where putting 16 tracks out all at once, if that worked in this day and age, then I would like to do that. But it's not really a good marketing plan to do that, because you're essentially giving people 16 tracks all at once that might fade into, like, if you look at my first album, like there's certain tracks on Spotify that are only getting like two plays a day. And it kind of just does them a bit of a disservice. Like, for example, like one of my favorite tracks, You Are Loved, it gets 1 or 2 plays a day on Spotify, and if I'd have put it out as a single, it would be getting maybe 30, 40, 50 streams per day. That's the trend really, between how well a track does on streaming platforms. But yeah, I think I'd love to do that, John. I'd love to put loads of music out on an album, but I just have to think carefully about whether that does the specific tracks justice, if that makes sense.
I think with the resurgence of vinyl, that people are thinking about 9 to 10 tracks as the most for an album these days. So you're talking 30, 40 minutes of new material.
Yeah.
And you've got something for the next album.
Yeah. I'm aiming between 10 and 12. That's my aim at the moment. And there's lots of different things that will affect whether that happen, whether it's 12 or whether it's 10. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, there's some people.
Well, see, you've got nine definites. You're not going to force yourself to write another one just to make sure it's 10, are you?
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. And to be honest, John, I've not got 16 definites.
Okay.
I've only really got probably about 10 definites at the moment. But I'm writing quite a bit. I'm finding myself back in that little loop of wanting to sit in the studio and just sing and play with piano a little bit. So, I don't know, that might even change. But another problem with that is if I write another 3 songs, 3 or 4, maybe even 5 songs before the next time round, and then I do what Clive says and plays it on the stream all the time. And then by the time it comes around to recording it in the studio, I have like a little bit less love for it. And that's just a natural thing, as you play, the more you play a song, sometimes you fall a little bit more in love with it, but at a certain point it just becomes like another song, and then you move on to that next one. And I like loving a song when I'm in the studio. Like, I like going to Dave with a track that's pretty new, that I'm fully in love with, and putting it down in that form, instead of, it being 6 months down the line when I've sang it on the streams for 4 months, and I'm, it's one of those, it's a real minefield, kind of mentally, more than anything, when you write and when you put the track out and when it's produced and stuff like that. because I am one of these people that the second I write a new song, that's my favorite, and I love that, and I won't forget about my other songs, but I'm not as buzzing about it. I don't have that kick when I'm in the studio. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
I've only written one song. It'll be out on Bandcamp soon. Have you all listened to it? My song? No.
Have we? Is it out on Bandcamp now?
No, it's only on SoundCloud. The video's on YouTube. It's called The Waters of Briley Hill.
Oh yeah. Let me just...
It's a local songwriting project with Dan Whitehouse, who you may have not heard of, but he's quite well known in the Midlands.
Very nice, John.
Yeah.
And how exciting is it when you're in that?
He loved my song.
Zone?
We did a show on Wednesday in front of 120 people, so I got 120 people clapping along to my song.
Wow, and that buzz is like,
yeah,
especially if it's a song you've written recently,
Yeah. I don't sing the verse parts. I speak the verse parts, but I sing the chorus parts as well.
Yeah.
Me and 3 other men. It's quite nice.
Yeah.
It's all about the waters of Briley Hill and how they're used for leisure coaches rather than being used for, carrying coal and iron and glassware along the canals of the Midlands in the olden days.
Fantastic. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I don't think I'll be writing any more songs, but you never know.
I said that after my first one. And then, yeah. It's like that whole thing, I'm never drinking alcohol again. It's like, I feel like writing songs is like getting tattoos for some people. It's like quite addictive. You do it once and then like, and they tend to get better, But yeah. So this has kind of turned into a Q&A, which is good, and it's kind of what I wanted. So has anyone else got any questions about anything that's going on at the minute? Any questions for Clive and his presentation as well?
I have a question for Clive. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ian.
No, ladies first, far away.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to ask Clive quickly, how many songs did Dylan write in total for himself and everyone else?
Well, I don't think he's written for anybody else. Maybe only 1 or 2. I can't think. My guess is that he must have written 750, because he's got about 50 albums, 10 a time. So I think he's written at least 500, if not more. And I'd probably say nearer 1,000. Because a lot were probably gone unreleased.
Because there's so many artists, I'll just use Adele as an example. It's like, oh, she's singing this song. It's really great. It was written by Dylan.
Yes. I think not just with Dylan, I think it's surprising how often you hear a song and you think, oh, you like that. And you think, oh, I wouldn't have liked that. My wife says, Karen says, if she doesn't like Dylan's voice, but she loves his songs. And if you ever get the chance to see Girl from the North Country, the stage show with his songs, the songs are just unbelievable. But in a way, I can understand that it enhances it because the people singing it with beautiful voices. But so many covers, and I love covers. Personally, just to digress, because if somebody sings a cover just really to make money, maybe as a release, that's one thing. But if you actually embrace a cover as a singer yourself, or even a songwriter yourself, then you really must have a passion for that song, and that just comes out. I mean, the way Jenny, for instance, sings that Eva Cassidy song, you just feel it,
Yeah, I do have a passion for that song. And that's to add to that. That's why it's very difficult to sing songs that you don't like, and it's something I've always really struggled to do. It's what held me back when I was doing pub gigs, because they'd ask for songs and I just really struggle to bring myself to. And it's not necessarily that I don't like the song. It's like I'm happy with that song staying where it is, And yeah, I've always loved covers as well. Like that's how I started out, singing covers, and that's how most people start out. So there's a lot of, I feel like covers get a lot of hate at times, but it's definitely something I've been thinking about more recently, because it's quite exhausting writing and recording your own music, and sometimes it's nice just to have the music done there for you and just to be able to put your little slant on it. And I try and always do a slightly different slant on a cover. I don't tend to like to sing it exactly how it is, unless it's one that I don't really know. So that's all I've not had time to sit with it and make it my own. But yeah, that's an interesting point actually, Clive. So yeah, has anyone else got any questions for me or for Clive or for anybody?
I got a comment for Clive. On your presentation, Clive, what you went through Dylan's art, I was expecting that you were going to come on to his metal sculptures.
I didn't want to put too much in, but yes, he has done some metal sculptures, and they're rather garish, to be honest. If they weren't, I probably wouldn't have one in my garden unless I was given it, and only because it was probably worth a fortune. But yeah, they're like big brass gates. But thank you for that.
Exactly that. Yeah, I saw them at the Halcyon Gallery down in London.
Yes,
probably 5 years ago or so, when there was a
yes,
whole
I
lot
was
of rubbery
there
stuff.
once.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
It was great, wasn't it? Yeah.
Was the self-portrait out the first time he painted?
Well, he dabbled. That was very early. The only time he took a break from touring was when after he had this purported motorcycle accident. He did fall off a bike, but it's arguable how injured he was. I think it was around 1966, just after his sort of heyday, or his first big few albums, and he was off for about 5 years. And he lived in Woodstock, actually, I believe, in a big rambling house. And his neighbour, I think, was a painter, I think an amateur, good painter, and the teacher, an older person, and he just went there most days and painted. And but I mean, he's certainly capable as an artist. A lot of them are copied from views that he's passed and seen, so they're not made up in his mind. But then again, most painters have paid on site, so yeah. But I think he's very good.
Wasn't a great album though, was it?
It certainly wasn't. No. I only bought it a few years ago after nearly 40 years of not wanting to buy it, because I realised it was literally the only one I hadn't got, and I couldn't stop myself buying it, especially as I think I got it for $1.99 or something.
It's not as bad as that, Clive. That's a bit harsh. No. What I would say though, that the bootleg series, another self-portrait, is much better.
It's much better. It's incredible. That's a really good album. And yeah, funnily enough, that was one of the only slides I took out today, compared to when I gave it to the other group, was to mention how much I love the bootleg series, because I didn't want that to get people to not be aware of that on here. So yeah, that they're wonderful. Yeah.
I've got 17. It was 17 the last one, was it? Yeah, I think.
Yeah, 17 or 18. Yeah, they're amazing. Yeah.
You guys are so interesting to listen to. Like, I just don't have that. Like, people think that I've got passion for music, and I do have passion for music, but I selfishly have passion for my own music. But actually, I've been developing this passion for music more recently, just through listening to more music, and it's something that I really never used to do. I never used to listen to music, and I would never sit and listen to an album, and I'd never sit and critically analyze other people's work, to be honest. And it's really interesting for me, like, from the other side, to hear people talking and agreeing or disagreeing on what's a good album, like, oh, that was his good album, or that was his bad album, because it's just something I never did. And I definitely come at it from a different angle and a different side of the fence in that way. So I'm sat there just really interested to listen to your comments on other people's work. And I personally, I'm not a big massive Bob Dylan fan. I think I'm a little bit like Karen. I'm a big fan of his, well, not a big fan, but I like his songs.
Lyrics.
I'm surrounded by albums everywhere I look at, so that's why I love music.
Yeah. And that's it, John. I I think maybe like because I'm so engrossed in creating music, I don't maybe it's I don't have a lot of time to listen to a lot of music and collect it, and it's not really the culture for my generation to be. I think, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people my age that will collect music, but there's not the same level of that, which is a real shame in a lot of ways. I'm promoting my Spotify playlist that I can just swipe things in and out of, and it is a shame in a lot of ways, but unfortunately that's the way it is. But with that comes a lot more access to music and a lot more access for younger artists to get, or any artist, anyone of any age, to get music out. So yeah, it's really interesting. But yeah, I'm with you on that, Karen. I'm not a big fan of his voice, I think, but I don't know, what do you guys think?
I mean, Clive can't sing. Clive's totally tone deaf, but he still sings better than Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
It's an acquired taste. That's all it is. It's an acquired taste, and Karen, you've not mastered it yet. Keep working.
Correct. But it's interesting you should say that, Jenny, because I honestly noticed quite some time ago. I mean, I've only followed you for 18 months, if that, less, just before Brindley last year. So, but I noticed straight away that you weren't particularly into other music or not comparing, but learning from it. And that I found that actually quite interesting, because therefore your music, songs, lyrics, and musicianship are really self-generated, or more so than perhaps is usual. And I found that interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree with that 100%. I think there's a lot to be said about maybe that I've not got most of you guys know I've got a really bad memory, and like I don't remember much of my childhood, to be honest. I remember like little things every now and then, something like, oh, I do remember that, but generally my knowledge and my memory of what it was like growing up is pretty limited. I just know that it was happy and it was a good experience, and I remember little tiny parts, but maybe in that it's maybe I did have this big vast, maybe my dad did sit with me for hours and would go through albums. I know that we used to listen to music, and I remember like any Saturday morning when I go to football, we'd listen to like albums in the car, and I must have been taking things in subliminally, but I've just never really thought about it. Like a lot of people I know, like singer-songwriters, they'll talk about, oh, I was very inspired by this person growing up, and I had every out, and I'm like, I just wasn't. Like, I can't lie. I'm just not one of those people that really looked outside of, my own writing. And I only really came into music a little bit later on in my life as well. I think I was 14 when I picked up the drums, but I wasn't picking up the drums to be a musician or to be in a band or anything like that. Oh, Paul is here. 1 second, guys. So yeah, I've just always been, I've always lived on my own planet and like in my own world, and I still do. Like it's very comfortable and safe for me to not venture out and not think about things a little bit too much. So maybe I was influenced when I was younger, but I haven't got that same awareness of it, maybe. Because I was like, my dad played guitar, and we always I remember listening to Eric Clapton once, but I can't say that I was somebody who was like, I listened to Eric Clapton every single day of my childhood, and now I'm writing like things like that. I don't gravitate towards explanations like that. But yeah, it is interesting to me as well, and I'm only really learning that about myself now when I'm like, when I notice what other people say, and I'm like, I just can't remember. Like I think when I very first started out being a singer-songwriter, I felt like I had to say things like, oh, Eva Cassidy was my my songbird when I grew up, and that made me write songs, and I only knew Eva Cassidy later on, and yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's changing though, Clive. Like I say, I think I'm learning a little bit more about music, and
that's why you're so unique, because you've not tried to copy or sound like somebody else, except maybe Alanis Morissette occasionally you tried to sound like it.
Yeah, I wanted to be a rock chick. That's one thing. Like I remember we had this.
Don't do that. Please don't do that. We just love the way you sound. You have your own sound, and
yeah, I don't think I've got enough stage presence to be a rock chick. I think I've pretty much hit that peak of stage presence, you know, the way it is. I don't really particularly care about how I look or how I flick my hair back and forth on the stage, you know. So I don't think I really fit into that category, but there's definitely a tone of that in some of my songs, I think. But yeah, like
Well, you come across very well on stage, especially with your little brief introductions, which I think are really part of your act, because I think that they're well said, and I just and exude a passion for the song, and I love that bit. And I actually don't usually like singers, you know, in saying too much, to be honest.
Just sing. Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
That's why he likes Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
You know, never introduces a song.
I think I'm quite passionate about what my songs mean, and I think that's something I always try and get across. And I don't know whether I always get it across perfectly, and it's difficult. Like I say, sometimes when you stop laughing, Ian.
Sorry, I can't help it.
Sometimes when you do live in your own world and you are very much just like music, like writing my own thing. I think sometimes then it's easy to go. It's hard to go. Sorry. I wrote that. You know, it's hard to get it across sometimes.
That's why you wrote the song, because you
That's
couldn't
why I
get it
wrote the
across.
song.
Yeah, other than writing the song.
But I don't think my songs are necessarily very obvious what they're about.
No?
Some are, but some of them, like, you wouldn't necessarily know like what Paradise is about, would you? Like if you were to just listen to Paradise, I don't know whether I don't know because I'm not you guys, but I wouldn't have thought that that was a song that you'd go, well, she wrote that about that, you know. So I feel like I have to give at least a little bit of an explanation, as opposed
You
to.
know, I would take the contrary on that. You know, one of the things that I really love about your lyrics is you use so much imagery. And the great thing about imagery is every image is different in every person's mind. So a song can actually become very personal to a person if they don't know how it's personal to you. But
I love
tell
that.
them how it's personal to you. You're going to take something away from them that they could have developed on their own. Because you know your choice of words are like the paints, and but the trouble is that you are when you paint with images, you are painting with a color that you can't see in every person's mind, because it's a different color. The image is different in every person's mind. So if it works, it would just seem like it. I as a songwriter, very small number of songs, but nonetheless, I really like to hear your stories about that. But and look at, you know, some of the sausage making stuff. But I'm not sure that the listeners gain in their experience by it. On the other hand, I'm sure there are people out there that are just dying to know what the song is about too. So it's somewhere
Yeah,
one to look another.
I think I totally understand what you mean there, Val. But I think like you say, there's probably for every person out there that wants to make their own image in the brain and wants to create their own story around a song, there's probably another person who is very much OCD about wanting to know what the song's written about and wanted. So there's probably a flip side of that. And I think that's what's very difficult about being on stage and performing, because you just don't know who your audience are. You don't know. And that's why these things are really good to kind of gain, you know, what people think about that. Because part of me like agrees, yeah. Like if I'm listening to a track, I want to make my own. And I actually really do that because I listen to lyrics and I really paint these pictures in my brain. But I don't know whether like with a song that is quite not as obvious, I think, would I want to do that? Would I want to paint the wrong picture? You know, such a subjective topic, and especially with my type of music, which is, like you say, quite full of imagery. I'm glad that you noticed that, by the way. I try and make things, I want to make a picture in people's brain, but at the same time, I kind of want people to know what it's about. A good example, and I know that John Bath is thinking this right now, is songs like I Am Yours, like I want people to, when they're listening to the track, imagine that they are an addiction. So I want that to be in people's brain. Like you say, that might be taking something away from it to an extent, but selfishly, for my part as the songwriter, I want people to be listening to me perform on the track, feeling like they are the addiction. That makes sense. But yeah, it's such a subjective, interesting thing to hear. And that might be something we could delve into a little bit more in future Zooms a little bit. What does anybody else think about that? Like,
can I just tell you a tale that comes to mind listening to you? We had a friend who went to Dignitas, unfortunately, and at the time that we knew that she was there going through what she was going through, I listened to a song by The National, and I was absolutely convinced it had been written for her. Convinced.
Yeah. And
I would play this song on a loop in the car, just listening to this song, convinced. Nobody could have told me it wasn't written for her.
Yeah.
And for months and months afterwards, I would sob as I listened to the song. I listen to it now and I think it's nothing to do with what she went through. Completely different, completely banal.
Yeah.
But I think we connect songs and we see imagery in lyrics a lot of the time, depending on what we are actually going through. Nothing to do with the writer, nothing to do with what the writer wrote or what the writer was thinking, but where we are at that given time in our lives.
It's like everything, every track from its performance goes through multiple filters. So it goes through the filter that I'm feeling. So I'm on stage, I'm feeling nervous, or I'm feeling anxious, or I'm feeling happy, elated, whatever that filter is, it's got to go through that first and foremost. And then it's got to go through the sound system. And it's got to be portrayed in from what Simon creates, because that's an art to me. I think it's such an underrated art. Does it sound good? How much bass is it? How much? And all of that makes a massive difference to the story, as much as you might not think. And then it's got to go through, like you say, Karen, your filter. So what mood you show up to the show at? Are you in the mood for be listening to songs about addiction? You might be, you might not be. You might never want to hear a song about addiction because something might have happened to you that really affects that, or it might be the case of you're really welcoming to a track like that, and certain aspects and elements of your life will affect that. So it's got to go through that filter, and then it's got to go through the understanding, how you understand the song. So there's all of these different filters that from creating a song, like on a live stream, it's got to go through the computer, which is very different, but this is how it's so subjective, and music has to go through all these filters to create what it is from how it was started to how it's interpreted at the other end. And it's such an interesting thing, and something that I don't think I've ever really thought about really. But yeah, then that's why another thing why it's so difficult to be a singer-songwriter, because you've got to wean through all of these different things. And you might have 100 people in a room and you play a song and 50 people gravitate to it and they connect with it and they love it because all of those filters it's just been perfect. And then you've got all the other people who completely just hate the song because of whatever reason. It's difficult. And I think that's why it's important to always remember that music's so subjective. So for me, for example, not a big massive Bob Dylan fan, but that's because it doesn't fit right with my filters, if you know what I mean. But then you hear someone like Clive, or like Clive's friends, that absolutely love Bob Dylan. It's their whole life because they've come at that. That was how they grew up, and they grew up, knowing they've got all this nostalgia towards anything to do with Bob Dylan. Whereas me, I've not got any of that. So I'm not gonna go, oh, Bob Dylan, Sarah, that's the most beautiful song ever written, because it's, to me,
you don't have that connection with that was his teens, that the most impressionable age. He's listening to this song.
Yeah.
And even if it's a crap song at the age of 60, it's got so much power behind it because of where he was in his life when he heard it.
Absolutely. And it's
I
like,
have to say, Bob Dylan's probably the only person he likes that I've never been to and will never go to. I'll go to anyone else. I can't go to Bob Dylan.
that's fair enough, you know, and why would you put yourself through that if it's something that you don't feel like would do you or him any service, you know?
Yeah.
And that's another thing. I don't like it when people come to my gigs when they don't want to come to my gigs. You know, like if people feel like they're forced to come with somebody else. Hate that. I'm never gonna win.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's like I've got
just let them pay the ticket money and not turn up.
rather not though. Like I've got all of my work colleagues coming to the Brinley, and I know that there's a small percentage of them that are going to enjoy themselves. Like the rest of them are probably only the
okay, because we're all on the front row, so you're all right.
I know, and the thing is,
we'll make the most noise for you.
I know. I'm really, really go to town on that day, guys.
Okay.
I want to be as cool to my work colleagues as I possibly can.
You are cool.
Big autograph queue as well, guys.
Sure. We don't know you. We just think you're cool. We don't know you. We don't already have your autograph.
Yeah.
Did you want me to film it?
I think actually, John, I think there's actually somebody already filming it. So there's a guy who works at the Brinley now who does all of the videoing for stuff, and he's hiring him. And he said to me he's friends with Si, so he said to me that he's happy to do it. So I know you said you weren't sure.
In that case, I better buy a ticket.
Johnny, you never get it.
No, I bought a ticket for the last concert I filmed. I promise I did.
He does. What was that, Shane?
Are you going to release a DVD? Or is it not going to be that quality?
I've not even thought about that, Shane. Put me on the spot there.
Bootlegger.
I've got a new bass player, so it depends how he performs.
He'll be fine.
Yeah, I know it. The problem is he's away now for 4 weeks, so we've only got like we have done loads of rehearsals up to this date, and he is with the songs now, but he'd never heard my music really prior to the rehearsals, so it's like pretty new for him. And then it's like we've got about 10 days when he gets back from Canada to rehearse, and it's about fitting stuff in, so it'll be fine.
What's his background?
Her metal music. You love it.
Yeah. I find a lot of bassists these days are sort of into that metal, and
yeah.
Is he beardy and bald?
Sorry?
Is he beardy and bald?
Beardy and bald.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is.
I don't know. Of course he is. He's the most beardy, and it's the same one who was in Eli, Shane.
Ah, right.
Yeah, it's Danny. So yeah, very beardy. He's got a beard down. His beard now is probably down to his crotch, probably even further. And he is bald. Yeah. So yeah, I'm very excited for the Brinley. Bit nervous, but we'll get over that.
It's going to be great. Love the Brindley. It's great. Yeah.
What comes across a lot, and I can understand it, is with anyone who's performing their own material, or even just standing up in public, but you exposing yourself, your vulnerability, you are quite nervous, or say you're quite nervous about debuting a song, performing in public. Is that nervous adrenaline? I mean,
that's something that I never ever had until like probably more recently. And I don't know what it is. I don't know where it came from. I think it is age. I think it's when I got to a certain point, and I think maybe as well now there's like a little, I wouldn't say pressure, but you kind of want to give people the best. I'm very aware that people have paid good money to come and see me. Do you know what I mean? And I know that, the tickets aren't crazy expensive, but for me, like, I know the value of what money is. So I want to give to you guys what I feel like you deserve, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it's purely that, Clive. I think I'm confident in my ability. It's not necessarily a nervous thing towards, I never get nervous on a live stream. I think it's just when I know that people are paying money to come and see me, and they've not only paid money to buy a ticket, but they've also had to then get themselves to a venue, and they've got all of the palaver of that. And I understand the value of that. I understand, because I'm not somebody historically who's sold loads of tickets every gig. You know, my very first tour that I did after my first album was like a little acoustic tour, and I think 6 people bought tickets in Leeds. You know, and since then, now I'm talking, I know it's not loads, but like 40, 50-ish is like my average figure. And it's like, that is huge to me. Like, knowing that 50 people or even more, like the Brindley will be 150 at the minute, people have gone out of the way to change their plans and buy a ticket and physically go on a link, and they've put a lot of effort into coming to see me. You know, it's just that pressure of that, I think, more than anything. In terms of the debut in a song, I get nervous because I want people to love my music. You know, I'm not somebody who, I wouldn't say that it doesn't affect me when people don't like my music. It does. Like, that, I'd be lying if I was to say, oh, I'm not bothered that people, you know, I have to really ready myself for the people not liking it or potentially not liking it. So I have, you know, I am quite sensitive in that way. I get that from my mum. But that's something that I've got to get used to, is if I'm going to continue doing this, I've got to get myself used to that. And again, that's why it was a good little experiment for me to put a new song out. Give me a bit of a thicker skin, because I think you need a thicker skin in this industry, and I'm not necessarily somebody who has got a very thick skin. I'm not, you know, I'm quite sensitive to other people's emotions and things like that. So yeah, I think it's a bit of that, a bit of a mix of all of that, really. But I'm getting there. I think I'm getting there.
Also a perfectionist, which perhaps makes you nervous.
Very much so, yeah. And I notice, like, if I make a mistake, don't get me wrong, I think I'm pretty good at fixing mistakes, and not somebody, I think, I don't go down an avenue then of like loads and loads of mistakes. But if I make a mistake, I hate it. And because I just think they've bought tickets to come and see me make a mistake. You know, it's like, it's that always in the back of my brain. And I don't know, you guys have probably been to millions of concerts and seen people make mistakes all of the time, but
Happens all the time.
yeah, it probably does. It probably does.
But we just laugh along with the artist.
Yeah.
If you can laugh at yourself, then your spectators, your viewers, laugh along with you.
Yeah.
Whereas if you fumble and you're all apologetic, we come away thinking, "Oh, bloody hell!"
Yeah.
So
To be fair, you recover really quickly as well.
Yeah,
if something goes a little bit wonky, you're back on it straight away. Nobody's
No,
noticed.
Ian, the answer is we don't notice.
Ian does.
There's that, but Adele did a concert. It was on television, and she started a song, and then she sang a couple of bars, and then she stopped it and said, "Well, maybe I'll start that over again because it was wrong." It's like, if Adele can do it, you can do it.
Yeah, honestly, like, it's not the making of the mistake. It's just the frustration of it. It's the, I can do it. I can do that. You know, and you know, I'm also as well, like, I think I underestimate myself, like how relatively new to, especially keys, because I don't make mistakes on guitar, but it's with keys, I'm like, prior to live streaming, I had never played keys in front of people. So I'm really quite new to it, and I don't play easy stuff. Like, my songs aren't exactly like the easiest songs to perform. So yeah, I do have a confidence in myself, but you know, I feel like it's just that little bit of, I'm hoping, like, I think honestly, Clive, when I do gigs and I say I've got 5 in a row, especially on my last tour, if I did 4 or 5 in a row, I found that fourth and fifth I just absolutely enjoyed. It's like when you have like a week off and then you come back, and it's like, if I was touring consistently and constantly and had the ability and the funds to do that, I feel like that nerve thing wouldn't even be a problem for me. I think it's just because quite often it's like I'm only doing 1 or 2 gigs, 3 gigs a year in Liverpool or in that area, and that means that there's, you know, people can only come to see me them time.
As a sensitive person, I think you'd always feel it. I've been teaching for 30, 40 years. There isn't a single lesson I go to where I'm not nervous. I prep every single none of my colleagues do, because they're all old hands. I prep every single lesson. Even now, after 30, 40 years, I'm petrified before every single lesson. I think when you want to get it right, because other people are watching you,
Yeah.
You're there, they're hanging on you, they're relying on you. You want to get it right if you care.
Yeah,
Um,
I do care. I think that's it. I think I have.
you obviously care.
Yeah, the idea of doing a concert or a gig where people walk away even feeling a little bit muted as to what I've done, absolutely
Has it ever
terrifying.
happened? Has it ever happened?
Not yet. I mean, I'm not saying it ever will. But
Yeah.
you know,
You made a mistake this year at Beardy. You got most upset with yourself, didn't you? Remember about that? I can't remember which song
actually,
it was.
so that technically, you know about Something Beautiful, where I just didn't
Yeah.
play the chord because sometimes
right.
what happens with keys, I get confused as to where I am, and sometimes like the microphone will be there.
But we didn't notice it. You noticed it, but we didn't notice it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh no, totally. And it does affect me, you know, and I don't ever forget a mistake. I don't remember the great things that I do at a concert, but I'll always remember the mistake that I make. But
That's how our programmed effect, unfortunately.
It is. I think it's just who I am, and I think
you know, I think most people remember horrible things that have happened to them because they don't want those things to happen again.
Yeah.
You take
like
the
a fight or
mouldy
flight
loaf
mechanism,
back.
isn't it?
You take the mouldy loaf back to Tesco, but you never go and thank them for all the fresh ones you've had.
Yeah. That's just the way we're programmed.
It is.
That's sort of what depression's all about.
Yeah, it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm just checking. You didn't let me post that one, did you? Something Beautiful. You said don't put that one out because I made a mistake.
That didn't come out, John, though.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
Vetoed.
But the thing is, that, honestly, there's never a gig that I've done that I've not made even a slight mistake. There's always going to be a slight mistake in every gig. It just proves that it's live, and it proves that I'm human, and it proves that, you know, I'm not somebody who, I don't do myself down. It just frustrates me. More from the perspective of, you know, what you guys are there to see. You know, and I know that you guys don't have this view of me of being this perfect artist because I make mistakes every single time on a live stream. You know, I don't have it in my mind that you think, oh, she's perfect and she's never made a mistake, because that's not the truth, you know.
Yes, we do.
Don't tell me that.
I think it's human to make a mistake, and we know that you're not using backing tracks or whatever some of them use. But, you know, I think it's human. I think it's part of a performance. I really do.
Yeah.
To err is human.
It is. I think it's just about recovering from it. You know, and not preempting it and not thinking that it's going to happen, and then when it does, just recovering from it. It's just its own art. Definitely. But yeah.
You're a very natural performer, though. Everything you do comes across very, very naturally, and, you know, honest. You're a very honest performer as well.
Thank you.
And I think that's where the emotion comes from as well.
Yeah. I think I'm not really a big fan of this whole, like, and that's why I like, another reason why I like live streaming. I love these kinds of things. I'm not really a big fan of like artists being on a pedestal, and like, and another, like, that, bringing up this point of, you know, the whole Bob Dylan thing, like, for me perspective, someone laugh then. But from my perspective, like, everyone holds Bob Dylan on this pedestal, and you know, when we're talking about, you were using language before, like the greatest of all time, and we're talking about artists and people like that. And purely from my subjective view, I don't think that anyone is the greatest of all time at anything. You know, other than maybe Messi, Ian. But, you know, I don't really like that idea, or don't like that concept that people are, you know, at the end of the day, Bob Dylan is another human man, exactly like you, Clive. He happened to be a good songwriter, but I bet he couldn't do half the things that you can do as a person, you know. So I don't really like that. I don't really like that whole thing of he was the greatest of all time, and because it's, for a start, it's very subjective and possibly not true, and, you know, secondly, I feel like it puts a lot of other people down in society, and I don't really like that. So, you know, for me, being an honest performer, that's because I am just another human woman like Karen and like Mags, you know, like, I'm exactly the same. I just happen to really love writing music, and I'm fortunate enough that I've got a lot of people that like my music and they'll come and see me. You know, that's the only difference. And I wasn't, you know, I'm lucky because of that. You know, I'm no different to anybody else. I'm just fortunate that is the gift that I was given. But I wasn't given a lot of gifts, you know, that a lot of you guys have. So yeah, there's definitely that element to it as well. And that's why I do really love going to, you know, before a gig, going and speaking to people before it and having a pint with people if we can, or, you know, having a chat, because I'm also, I want to be there and enjoy the moment just like you guys do. So
that helped calm the nerves, doing that sort of stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, the chatting or the beer?
Not the beer. Well, the beer probably would calm the nerves, but I don't know if it necessarily make me perform better. But yeah, that I love all that, and I think that's why another thing where it's like, if I ever was to like get to that next level, and you know, it's a bit frowned upon maybe to have that chat before a gig. You know, I don't know whether, you know, maybe people want that lack of access to an artist. I don't know, but
we go
to
to Janice Ian concerts when she's here, and we always chat afterwards. Always. She
But
comes
what about
out
before?
Very rarely.
No, not before.
Not as many do that.
That's what I mean. So like, it's quite rare for someone to do that.
Yeah, very rare.
But I think because a lot of them are running around, you know, trying to make sure that everything's right and the lighting's right and the mics are right and the set list is in the right position for Karen to jump on the stage and get it. And so Ian,
No, I disagree there actually, because the bigger stars have got people to do that. And if Jenny's got time to chat beforehand, everybody's got time to chat. But I do think some are in more preparation mode, you know. But
I tend to do that a little bit earlier in the day, and then like the sound check is always done. I don't like it when you're sound checking just as the audience are coming in and there's that rush, because I feel that throws me a little bit. That's why it's so important, like the types of venues that we book, and I'm really lucky having Graham, because he values that, and a lot of the venues that we book make sure we've got the right sound systems, you know. The venues that people gig at that aren't necessarily like a mess, they're used to like the scheduling and sound checks are important, because I've played at venues before where you get like an hour sound check for a full band, and half of that you're setting up the drum kit and then you're not sound checked, you're not ready, and then that the second you're not ready, it's always gonna go wrong, and you don't have that time to just relax and just like speak to people and enjoy that side of it, because I enjoy that side of it. I don't want to miss out on that. You know, I want to be able to speak to you guys before a gig and say hello and you know, give you a bit of a
once you become
what the set list is going to be. Sorry.
Once you become too big, then that's going to be impossible, because you'll have so many people wanting to talk to you. You know, so
yeah.
Hopefully a few of us on here will at least be allowed backstage.
Absolutely.
We'll have our own little party backstage.
I'm on the Brindley website now. Nearly all the stalls are sold out, at least 3/4. What's the view from the balcony like?
There's not many gone in the balcony. The balcony's pretty empty, John.
Yeah, I can see.
But the views are great everywhere in the Brindley. There's a great view.
It's a lovely theatre.
Yeah. I've only been in the smaller one, haven't I?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I've
been there twice.
Yeah. So I've played. I think this is my 5th time playing at the Brindley, and the first time in the main room. So, in fact, no, it's not. I've played in the main room, but I've only supported the Christians in the main room, and I don't remember being nervous. Yeah, I've supported them a few times, but
they're one of my bands from the 80s.
I like the Christians. Yeah, Forgotten Town.
Yeah.
So you don't do much support performing. I suppose that's because you've got the day job and can't, but a lot of people see that as a route to picking up fans.
Purely because either people don't ask me or they don't accept me when we pitch. We're constantly pitching, but at the minute
They're frightened you too good. They're frightened you too good.
Yeah.
We can't have her supporting us.
Yeah, I mean, we discovered you. We discovered you as a support for Roxanne Sebastian.
Oh,
we listen to you more than Roxanne now.
I 100% value doing support slots, and trust me, it's something that I really am trying to get. It's just something that just hasn't clicked for me recently. I've just not had people haven't asked me. like the whole. I'm trying to remember how Roxanne came about. I think Roxanne asked me to perform, to do the support. But Graham's been pitching me to some bigger artists. I've been shortlisted for a few bigger ones, but other than that, I've not had anything just yet. And I don't know why. We can't figure out what it is, whether it's lack of whatever. I don't know. But
Has he pitched you to Katie Mellower?
Say that again.
Has he pitched you to Katie Mellower?
I don't think so. It always has to be. It has to work around things as well to an extent. But yeah, there is that.
Well, I'm just thinking because Roxy supported her.
Mm-hmm.
You supported Roxy, and I'm thinking your next level could be to go to Katie.
Yeah, that's probably lots of artists that we.
Yeah, but if you've not pitched to her, she's just another name for you to pitch to.
Your
sort of music.
But if you guys ever come across a tour that's happening, and you think, I know some of you guys have sent them to me previously, and I've always sent them on to Graham, and he does usually pitch me for it if it's not something that clashes. Quite often these acts want somebody to be able to do the whole thing, which I would always make happen if it came to. But if I had another gig, it's See you, Ian. See you soon.
See you
See you later,
later.
everyone.
Thanks for being here. So yeah, it's not that I undervalue that. It's just that I've not had that opportunity thrown at me just yet. But that is something that really I should be doing that over a headline tour, really. And I'm aware of that. It's just when you're not getting the supports coming in, you can't just not gig.
To do something, yeah.
Yeah. And also I think it makes a statement putting on headline tour out. But maybe that holds me back because I know that when I'm looking for support acts, if they're doing headline tours, I instantly think they're too good to be supporting me. So I wouldn't necessarily ask them. So it might be a case of that as well.
I think you go down really well with Marillion fans.
I was pitched to Marillion with Eli.
Right.
But that never happened. It's just not happened for me yet. There's a lot of things that just haven't clicked for me.
Because a lot of bands that tour with the big setup don't like that setup being changed after sound check. So if you've got an acoustic guitar and a piano, keyboard, and you can just use those to portray your music, which you can do excellently, then that's probably the best sort of support person for that sort of band.
Yeah, that is the whole support thing is that one thing that is just it's the one thing that probably would be the most lucrative in terms of bringing in our audience members, but it's just not happened for me yet. But we are working really hard. Graham's brilliant, who's my booking agent. He's working hard behind the scenes, and he predicts that, bringing it back to the point that you made earlier, Clive, asking if you think this album's going to do something. Graham thinks that this album will push me to that next level, and hopefully I'll get that next big support slot. I can see it happening. It's just gotta happen, it's just I've got to hit that pot of gold. I've got to have that bit of luck, but it is luck as well for supports,
Yes, yeah.
Fingers
crossed. How many gigs have people been to where they've just gone for the support act?
Well, yeah, possibly. I don't know. I don't really know.
Yeah, I've done that a few times.
I've
actually been to one gig in one building, saw the support act, and then went to another gig to see the headline act.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So, like both bands. So yeah.
What was that, Clive? Sorry.
Oh, I've certainly been to a couple of times myself to mainly see the support. I probably would enjoy the main one as well, but I've certainly done that. Yeah.
Interesting, yeah. But yeah, working hard on that, Clive, at the moment. So something will come up at some point. Because it gets you in different cities as well, doesn't it? Where necessarily sell a lot of tickets as a headline. Graham's really good. He's got plans for me, and he's a hard worker. He's certainly not pushing me to the back of his brain, if you know what I mean. He's
good.
Doing me justice. It's just that we've not had that bit of luck just yet. Yeah, right. I'm aware that I'm taking up a lot of your time today, guys.
I just want to, my hubby here. You have beaten in the Sheffield Wednesday Jenny competition.
Wow.
He was only staying on till 3 because he was going to watch Sheffield Wednesday play.
Oh my lord, it's nearly 4 o'clock. I am so sorry. What, you weren't going to the match?
Today, I have really, really enjoyed it today. This Zoom, I've really enjoyed it. It's been lovely. Not just doing my little bit, but talking like we have as openly. It's really, really a pleasure.
Well, I've equally enjoyed it, Clive. And one thing that I will say is that I have taken on board a couple of people have asked me for different things for the patrons Patreon, and I wanted to put this out there a little bit to you because I have got some ideas to changing up the Patreon a little bit. I was thinking of incorporating a couple of things. I've not decided, yet exactly how it'll work. I was thinking of having a 2-tier patron system moving forward, and incorporating Zoom concerts, which will be accessed on the 2nd tier. So that'll be like a stream, but you guys will be on screen like this. Now, I've not fully worked out the sound thing yet, so it's going to take me a little bit of time to get that up and running. I think you guys probably think it's fine, but I'm a perfectionist, as you know. So I want to get the sound perfect for you guys. And also, I did want to do some one-to-one Zoom stuff, but instead of doing it as like part of the Patreon, I was going to offer it to everybody, the public, but have it as like discounted rates. So I've got some ideas. I've not really fully figured out the pricing and the tiering and things like that just yet. But I know another thing is I don't know whether the normal streams, patron only streams, are really worth it for you guys, because obviously you guys already know I do lots of normal streams.
I agree with that.
Yeah, so that's why I was thinking a Zoom stream would be better, but maybe having it as a different tier. And obviously there'll still be the behind the scenes and the bits of the demos and stuff that will be on the normal tier. But yeah, I'll let you guys know a little bit more about that moving forward. But if anyone's got any ideas, I am always taking in people's ideas. Obviously I can't please everybody. We all know that. But if you've got any ideas that you think that's somebody else that you know that does these things, I'm always open. My ears are always open. But I was thinking of changing that moving forward at some point, maybe January, maybe just starting it afresh. But if we can get it all together a bit before then, maybe we could do it moving forward, maybe November, December time. But we'll see.
I do think for £5 you give a lot for £5.
Oh, thanks. I always worry that I don't.
Yeah, but I do because I'm on 20 Patreon people.
Wow, that's support that, Shane. Thank you for that.
And you're one of the cheapest, so I'm quite willing to give you a bit more money.
And one or two don't do an awful lot.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's not always I always worry that I don't do enough. I think that's another thing of me, that I just always think that I'm not doing enough. But I also am all tied to time because I do work, and I'm in a very difficult position at the minute because I have enough followers that there's a demand for things, but I don't necessarily have enough followers that there's a crazy huge amount of money that I can work with, You can't
go professional yet.
Exactly, yeah. And through not being professional and I'm working, it means I don't have as much time to put into, I do put a lot of effort into my behind the scenes stuff and making sure that I've got a nice amount of that. But it's just, I wish I could I'd give you guys more if I could, it's one of them. Yeah. But yeah, so there is stuff coming up, guys, and I want to make the Patreon as good as possible because I want some new people to join in as well, and I think I need to advertise it a little bit better. So I'm thinking some, say for example, I put out a behind the scenes video. I was thinking I could use snippets of it for social media to try and get people onto the Patreon.
Great idea.
So we'll be doing that as well moving forward. But yeah, I'm aware that I'm taking up a lot of you guys' time and that you've all got busy things to do. And thank you, Clive, for your excellent presentation that we all enjoyed, and for missing the match. I hope you. Did you have a
I'm
ticket?
going to watch the second half now.
Oh right, okay.
I've
Well,
never known him miss a match before.
Wow.
Are they playing
He's never
Swansea?
missed a match for me, let me tell you. If I want to do something, hard luck.
Are you in the bad books now? Right. Anyway, I'll leave you to it. And yeah, so keep your eye on the Patreon, guys. There's stuff coming up soon, maybe even today. Depends on sort of a couple of things. But yeah, thank you very much, everyone. I really do love these Zoom chats, and today's been extra special. So yeah, I'll be doing another one next month. Let's get some ideas for dates. We'll discuss that. By the way, guys, if you're not on the Discord, on the Patreon Discord, sorry, on the Discord with the Patreon channel on the Discord, I do chat about Patreon stuff on there quite a lot. So join the Discord. It's also just amazing. Just saying. We love the Discord. So yeah, get on there, and also yeah, social media and all that kind of stuff, guys, if you're not already on them. Right. Enjoy the rest of your day and take care.
Bye. Nice to meet you all.
Okay, thanks a
Bye.
lot.
Thanks all.
Bye.
Thank you again, Clive.